So a couple of kind of announcement type things for this morning. The first one is, as you saw in the announcement for this meeting, this will be the last Dataedo Talks session for a while. This is number 10 that we've had. The links for those, of course, the recordings of those are available through the Dataedo website. I believe we're all the way current right now with everything available for the past sessions. This one, of course, will be available in the coming week. So you can go back and look at those and and share those links with any of your colleagues as you think is appropriate or needed. There's some good content in these, I believe, that talks about specific topics. So feel free to share those links and watch for a possible continuation of Dataedo Talks in several months. Excuse me, I've got something in my throat. In several months after we get another version or two released out. We've got some good features coming, like the data quality, and so we want to probably have a Dataedo Talk session about that when it's available. In the meantime, we will be taking a break. In place of Dataedo Talks, we will be having a webinar series coming up. It'll be shorter sessions, probably 30 minutes, about maybe a little longer each time. And the title of that's going to be Dataedo Basics. And so it's really focused towards the people who don't have a lot of exposure or experience with the tool and want to know, how to use the portal, what a data catalog is, what glossary is, what the different features are, and how they're useful. So it's a lower level of expertise, but that'll be coming up starting in a couple of weeks, and so there'll be announcements coming out for that. For today, the topics that we're going to be covering, as you know, going to be talking about how to get more out of your lineage automatically. So a tip on that we'll be talking about. Then the main topic I'll be talking more about the Steward Hub and kind of its place in development, its status, because there is some can I say weirdness with the Steward Hub development right now. It's kind of in flux. So I'll go over that, talk about what is Steward Hub, how to use it, and kind of what the status is and what the road forward will be for the Steward Hub. And then at the end, like always, we're going to be treated to a sneak peek of some future development direction by Piotr. And you are here, right, Piotr?
Yes, correct. I'm here. I'll talk
All
about
right.
data quality.
Great. That'll be a data quality thing, as Piotr says. So looking forward to that. So let's go ahead and dive in. So for the tip, regarding the lineage, this screen we're looking at right now, this is actually 24.3 that's due out in about a month. So you're getting a sneak peek here of what 24.3 looks like. What I really want to talk about here regarding the lineage is this is a new view in lineage. And if you look closely, you're probably going to see this is not object-based. This is system-based. These are data sources. And so we're seeing the relationships of these data sources in the ecosystem here. Now, just like with the object-based lineage view, you can see the columns there. Here, we're looking at the system-based, and we can see the objects here. So if there are, I believe the cutoff is 10. If there are less than 10 objects, it will list them all. If there are more than 10, it says, what the count is. And if you want to see them, then you can do that. But by default, it is going to just show us that view there. I like to see it this way, where we're just looking at, these are the data sources we have, and this is how data moves between these sources. Um, so the thing to think about here is how do these linkages between the different sources happen? Um, and that's what we're going to talk about today. They happen by the use of linked sources. Linked sources are often documented in your data source. So let's go to an example right here. So here I am, I'm looking at Power BI, and you can see I have a bunch of linked sources listed there. The Dataedo imported these linked sources when it refreshed the data from this Power BI connection. And you can see there are several of them here. The one I want to look at specifically is this first one, Retail Bid W, BI Data Warehouse, I guess is what that is, BI Data Warehouse. Notice, if you will, I can't zoom in anymore, but there is a database symbol right there with an orange question mark inside of it. That's telling us this is not defined. That's the one to look for. The others, notice these two, they have the SQL server icon there. Those are configured correctly. These are not. These three right here, those link to files. So unless I've connected and imported those Excel files, of course, they're not going to be valid. But this one right here, this is the one I want to look at. And I have it open on the main panel here. What I need to do here to configure this is tell it which of my data sources this link source is connecting to. In my case, it is this company data warehouse. So I set that and I tell it which SQL dialect my scripts are in. And when I save that, notice now this has been set to valid. So we have configured the link source. Now the second stage of this is we have to apply the link source. The example for that particular data source is this retail analysis sample. So I've opened the data set right there. And here I have to tell it which linked source to use. So I am in Power BI reports. It is that one that we just configured. I save that. And what that is telling Dataedo is when you import, when you refresh metadata and run the SQL parser and build lineage, use this linked source to get that connection. And by that connection, I mean one of these, where it's saying we're going from this system over to another system. Use that connection to do that and build that automatic lineage. So that's how that is done. The key thing to remember here is you have to configure it, you have to apply it over here to the data set or a table or whatever if you're in a different type of a data source. You have to apply it, and then you need to rerun your import. You have to re-import changes. Otherwise, you've configured it, but you haven't told it to do anything with it yet. So this is, some of you may have been here, I don't know, 9 or 10 sessions ago when we talked about troubleshooting your data lineage. One of the items was make sure that you import in the correct order. This is one of the applications of that. If you don't have, for example, if that company data warehouse had not been connected and imported yet, then there's nothing for this link source to look at. Likewise, if I have put it in, I have my target, I have my source, but I haven't told it how to connect them, then I need to refresh that. So that's the reason for getting this configuration in place and then re-importing everything in the correct order. And again, the correct order is data sources first, report second, and ETL third. That way you have the highest probability of getting this, all of this lineage built in place. Okay. Any questions on that?
There's one comment in chat. So two questions. Why it didn't detect in the first place? And second, what happens when Dataedo figures out to properly build the links? The
Okay.
manual links will prevail, or will it rewrite the manual?
So the reason it doesn't do it in the first place can be based on, just it's missing some bit of information. In this case, it was not able to identify, if I open this again, it was not able to identify that this um, these connection details applied to that database. It just could not decipher and understand that. So that's the reason I had to tell it what that mapping actually was. Um, I my understanding is that if something has already been mapped manually and then you create this and redo it, it should overwrite what was done manually. I'm going to
Actually
ask
not.
Piotr.
Actually no. Yeah. So when you do something manually, once something is set, it's set, right? And the reason which is why it's not detected, one, because it was not important. Second, could be you used some different way of different URL. So for instance, you can connect to a server by the name or by the IP address, right? For instance. So
Okay.
we couldn't locate the database. That's why sometimes needs to be done
Right.
manually.
Um, yeah. So as I say, I did ask the team specifically, if I have created it manually and then it is able to do it automatically at some point in the future, will it overwrite? They told me yes. I have
Oh,
not tested it, so I don't know
okay,
that that's the answer.
that's interesting. It shouldn't override because you're the, you should be able to uh, document the way you feel is right? So the algorithm
Okay.
is just trying to guess. So okay, we should test that because to my
Yeah.
understanding, it shouldn't override it.
Okay, so the good news is, again, we're looking at 24.3 here. Notice down here in the very lower right-hand corner, this legend item right there. Beginning in this version, these lines up here will indicate whether it's an automatic or a manual lineage, how that lineage was created here. The same thing is valid for the object level and those things. So this will tell you, you know, what is actually happening. So potentially, if it's not overriding, you may have two connections here to a particular source or a particular object in the other view um, with the different lines, and it'll tell you what's what, and then you can be able to take action if necessary. So that I think is a valuable addition to be able to visually and quickly see which was manual and which was automatic. Okay. Was there another question?
I'd like to add at this point to this the diagram we're looking at. This is something we're currently still developing. You can drill into specific tables. So Richard, you can expand. If it has a lot of tables like CRM database, for instance, it just shows you stats, and you will be able to click. Maybe even already it works. If you click on the tables, then it will show a pop-up window with the
Oh yeah,
if you
over here.
expand with well, actually if you expand and click on the tables, yeah, but this is something we're still working on, yeah, and in the future on the last time yeah, maybe it's not
I've
being
checked it. It's going to be slow.
um I think it's not published yet. I've seen it in some other version. So and we're also building, not this release, probably by the end of the year, we're also adding the diagram that will show all the sources at once. So like one diagram.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Well, I think this view is very useful, honestly, to be able to see at a system level what's happening.
And a couple of questions, Richard. So, is there a way to tell which ones are manual and which ones are automatic?
So that is going to be the linkages will be this here with knowing by the size of the line which ones are manual, which ones are automatic. These lines we're looking at here, these are automatic. So that is the thickness of the lines for an automatic lineage. And then for a manual, I don't have an example. It would be a thicker line.
And then we also had a question. So what needs to be done for it to get to the right source, which I think is kind of a summarization of what you mentioned.
Yeah. So look at your link sources, find them here, make sure that you have that field there mapped to the source system. And then make sure you have the right dialect. Go to your data set. In other words, the first stop that the data makes when it enters the new system, and make sure that you have it applied there. And then refresh your import.
In one of the upcoming releases, we will add a linked sources section in the Steward Hub that will show you all the linked sources that are supposed to be filled, but are not. Right now we have to check source by source, but it will help you with a summary view.
Yeah, and that icon is the one that helps you identify those that are not mapped. Other questions?
There's one.
I was about to say, will that have an impact on the data lineage, as in improve it?
Completing the linked sources. Well, ideally yes, because if we cannot find so if the lineage goes across data sources and we cannot figure out which one it is, then we cannot build automatic lineage. Then if you link that, then the idea is we will be right. I mean there might be other reasons why we can't, right? So it's not a
Yeah, so for example, if we don't have the link source configured between this SharePoint database and this CRM database, if that wasn't there, then this linkage would not show. And if you're up here, you're going to end here. If you're down here in the view, it's going to end right there. So you start to see these truncated lineages. So that's another way to find broken configurations on link sources. All right. So I want to move forward into the main topic, which is Steward Hub, which Piotr mentioned. So to do that, I'm going to start right here. This is version 24.2, and to introduce the Steward Hub, I want to talk about its purpose, basically. Here's what it looks like in desktop. That'll open right there. Basically, the purpose of Steward Hub is to give suggestions or alerts to the data stewards, the editors, about actions they can take to very quickly build or complete content, to add value very quickly to the data catalog. The whole idea here is get to value quickly, get content in there quickly, and just make it easy to do that. So for example, if I come in here, let's go this business domains, for example, this gives us an overview of suggestions that Steward Hub is giving to me regarding the business domains, basically telling me objects that have not been linked to objects in this connection, in this data source, that have not been linked to a domain yet. And so I can look at those and review them and decide, do I want to link them to a domain or an area? And if so, which? So it tells me what the situation is, and then gives me the ability to have that action to do that. The situation currently with Steward Hub is that, let's go back here, these actions and suggestions for these areas currently exist in the desktop app. Portal app current version has a little bit different content. Basically, what exists in Steward Hub and Portal right now is suggestions of, of actions that whoever is logged in is suggested to take with regards to workflows. So these are all workflow actions. You can see there are tiles for those others that are not populated yet, current version. So with regards to these workflows, go in here and it says this is a term in the glossary that needs to have an approval of that description. So that's what exists there. In the desktop, as I say, this is all actions about suggestions and things. So in the next version, let me go back here. Next version. So this is, again, 24.3. And you can see here, there's a combination of these. We have some workflow suggestions. We also have some other suggestions here about things that can happen. These are for glossary. These are suggestions. What has happened here is the Steward Hub has scanned the data system and said, these are terms that we believe based on usage and occurrence in the data catalog and in your data systems, they could be valid choices to have a business glossary term created. And then if you want to do that, you can approve it and it will create a glossary term and allow you to define that. So again, these actions based on whichever category you choose here. Here's one right here where it's telling us we have all of these objects in the database that do not have an owner assigned to them yet. And so you can assign an owner from the list and save it and very quickly get through these. You can also do them in bulk. So I could choose a whole series of them and assign the owner and process those. Once you have done those, they will disappear from this list. So it's a way to very quickly get this content. Now, as I said, currently the suggestions are in the desktop and the workflow stuff is in Portal. The very next version, a lot of that content from the desktop Steward Hub will be added here in Portal. Some of it will be completely functional. Some of it will be read-only. But as versions come out, the amount of content that is here in Steward Hub in Portal will be increased. Now, looking forward even farther, with continued changes to Portal, I want to show you some images here of what this may look like going forward. These are design pictures. Nothing has been released yet, of course. These are in the future. But for future versions, this is Portal. This is the new design. And you can see right here, we're looking at the home page. And right there, we have a list of some objects that need to be reviewed. This is workflow status stuff. So that is right there, very accessible. And if you go into the Steward Hub, you have a different view. So it's giving us stats about what has happened. It's giving us by category those suggested actions, along with a progress amount for those. So very, very nice presentation here of getting into the Steward Hub and quickly making actions, creating content, and being able to track what has happened here. The detail page for this, of course, is the tasks page where, again, we have the ability to look at these and approve or reject these suggestions one at a time. This one happens to be the owner where, it is suggesting that in this case, Bessie Cooper should be the owner. We can approve it, or we can reject it, or we can change it. We have the ability to edit and then approve it, or we can select a bunch of them, approve them in bulk. This idea of getting in there and being able to edit these and manage these all right there in the portal obviously is coming. So before I jump into specific examples of this, do we have questions?
Yeah, a couple. That's I had unmuted. So will there be the possibility to select objects using filters or rejects?
Yeah, so these filters right here at the top, you can search for objects, types, subtypes, those things, and you can get it down to a subgroup where you could either, depending on how good your filtering is, you can either select them all or select them one at a time and process them as a group. So yes.
Perfect. And then how does it determine that Adam is the one assigned to those tasks? Is he the steward on those assets?
So for the Steward Hub, the visibility of this is to all of the data stewards. So if I have an editor capability, it will show it to me. That's a good suggestion, though, to be able to target those to specific people. Okay. Any other questions, Chase?
No, I think we're good.
All right, good. So some examples of using this. I will quickly go through some of these so we leave Piotr some time to show us his stuff. So I've kind of shown this already, but for example, if I wanted to deal with domain assignment, objects being assigned to domains, notice I've also got this navigation on the left side where I can choose things here. But let's say I want to consider, I don't know, the reports right here. And I want to say what needs to be linked, what has not been linked yet. Here's a summary. 52 data sets have not been linked. 9 linked sources have not been linked. My reports are all linked. But if I wanted to consider those data sets, I could click here. If I wanted to look at all of them, I can click there. But let's go ahead. And right here, we've sorted here by the data source automatically and by data set automatically. And then you just go through here and we say, oh, I want, for example, these data sets to be linked. I can select them together and choose that. And again, this is a multi-select, so I can assign both of them at once. Let's say that they belong to, oh, for example, this marketing and sales right there. I could do that, assign them both to that area. In this case, top level is a domain. This is a subject area. Or I can do them individually. Let's deselect those. Let's choose something up here. I don't even have to select it. I can just go over here and I can choose right there to do that. I could also assign it to more than one, like this. So you have a lot of ability to do that. And then, of course, when you're done, you hit save and move on. So that's the idea of linking these two domains. Another one that we've got here is in the data model, where we can look at those tables that don't have primary keys assigned. In my system, I've got 187 of them, so I can look at that. And again, I can do it by data source, or if I go down here, it gives me a blank palette where I can define my filters here. So let's say I want to look at that one, and I want to look at tables, of course, and I don't know if there's any here. Looks like there wasn't any. Let's go ahead back up here and find where there is some. There's one right there. And it gives us this list. And then we have that ability to go and create those primary keys for those. I must be in the wrong place here, though, because it's supposed to suggest, oh, here it is right here. It's suggesting, no, I'm in the wrong place. It suggests what it thinks the possible primary keys are. So let's go as an example. I do have an example here. This one, I believe.
So the first list is verify are the suggestions, and the second is the ones the tables that are do not have primary key where you select manually.
Right, right. Yeah, so right here, this is telling me that we have this table, website schema suppliers table, and it's saying this is a candidate to be a primary key. And if we want to accept that, we say yes, and we approve it, or we can select these others and say reject them. That way you get them off your list. You either accept or reject. You don't just only select and approve. You do both. So you have that ability to accept those, and then it does create that primary key for that object in the catalog. And of course, remember that does not go back to your data source. It's only in Dataedo. We've already talked about owners a little bit, how you can assign those. And the last one I want to talk about is in back over here in Portal. Let's look at this one, where we have, actually, I do need to be this version.
And Richard,
where
before you jump into that, there was a quick question. Does this also help to see the data types of the columns in the table and make changes?
Right, and you can. If you were over here, let's go back. Actually, I need to be in this one. Oh, there we do. We do have this right there, data type, right there. Now back over here
I
quickly.
got a quick question. So if you can change it within data, does it reflect on the original data source that has been connected to?
In the source?
Yeah, so let me say I scan my database in the company database, and I use the Steward Hub to identify a wrong data type. If I make the changes on the data does it reflect on the original source?
Yeah, so it doesn't do that automatically, but we do have this DDL script export that you can apply. You can pull that DDL script out and then go to your source and apply it there. So it's a kind of an external process, but we do support that with this export. All right. Okay. This one. I guess I did mention this one where it does this scanning and makes the suggestions of glossary terms that you can then approve or reject. So those were the examples I wanted to give. As I say, this capability continues to be migrated over to the portal. So for now, you kind of have to, do a hybrid, depending on what work you want to do. It's in either portal or desktop, but continue to watch that for more and more capability to be added to the portal. And obviously, comments and suggestions about what you would like to see in the Steward Hub are as valuable. Piotr mentioned adding, this report of linked sources that are missing or broken, being added to Steward Hub in the future. So we're constantly developing that. All right. If there aren't any questions, I actually want to hand over to Piotr to give us the sneak peek.
No questions. I'm jumping to my presentation of current state of the data quality that we'd like to release this year. I did a lot more research since last time I showed you the concept. So what you see here is a list of rules, the built-in rules that we would like to ship in our product. And you can also see the concept, how you define the rules. So rules, there will be a catalog of rules. A rule is a specific logic of testing data. And then you can assign rules to either table, column, or sometimes foreign key. or database if it's a static SQL. For now, I identified two types of rules, SQL based. As you can see, this is an SQL that will be executed, and those parameters, table names, maybe I can zoom in. So those parameters will be passed to the from the current table and column name. You can also use other parameters, like in this case values. So this will test values, and so when you use this rule, you have to provide a values parameter, right? And that will check if the column you're testing will includes only a specified values. The other type of the rules are regex. So for instance, I built a quite large catalog of built-in, I call them domain rules, where will help you to identify things like I don't know, Canadian business number, or I don't know, European article number, EU VAT number, things like that. So these will be we'll ship them, and you will also be able to build your own custom rules. So there will be a library of built-in rules managed by us, and you can always copy and build your custom rules. Another thing we'd like to do is to enable you to import. So I mean, we'll be adding the imports from other sources. So things like DBT for now, and maybe Great Expectations, maybe some other sources, depending on the source. So Dataedo will not only be testing the data quality, but it can also import the results of the tests made elsewhere, which then we can present this information about the quality on the object level. There will be also a dashboard of the quality broken down by domain, by the dimension, right? So dimension are things like here these are missing, but things like accuracy, completeness, things right, integrity, timeliness, and so on. So yeah, for now I cannot show you the concept for the dashboard, but ideally we'll be able to share it soon. So yeah, these are the rules. There's almost 150 rules, 140 rules. At least some of them are still ideas that we'd like to build. If you have any other suggestions, it would be great.
I was about to say, Peter, we actually had a couple questions already. So
okay,
is that similar to lookups? And oh wait, I lost it. Oh yeah, there we go. Is that similar to lookups, where you were searching for specific values within SQL?
Yeah. So the thing I showed you is that was where you provide values, but they are provided in the rule. But there's also a lookup rule where we will use. Okay, this is well, this one is. I think you have to provide the lookup values, but we'll be also using the lookups defined in Dataedo. So there are two ways. There will be two ways, right? The lookups defined in the Dataedo, and also if you don't want to provide a lookup, you can always type those values directly in the rule. Yeah, I mean, this is just one. There's a lot more, right? We can test if I don't know if there's a specific amount of rows in the table. If the column is I don't know if it's not null, or is it not I don't know if that column is not in the past or not in the future, right? If it's a timestamp, it shouldn't be in the future. There will be a lot of different rules. Even things like suspicious dates, where we identified dates which are typically means null or zero in some of the systems, right? Or things like blank values, right? So things that you can find in the text fields, which are text, but are, in fact there are null. You can also copy this rule and add your own values. And so yeah, there will be a lot of different built-in rules. And if you know SQL or regex, you don't even have to know regex. You can ask ChatGPT to write a rule, right? I mean, like a lot of this looks like magic, but if you ask ChatGPT, I'm pretty sure it can produce a regex for you.
Well, and that was another question was, are there other types of rules planned besides SQL and regex?
Potentially, but what kind of? If you have any ideas?
Like Java classes was another one.
Oh, okay. Java class. That's unlikely because our product is not run on written in Java. It's C sharp. And also when you write in Java, I mean, I suppose there are some databases that allow you to use Java inside, but that will mean we have to extract all the data, get all the values from the column and then iterate and run some code on that. That would be tricky. However, if you can build some kind of script function in your engine, database engine, so add Java class in your engine, then you can use it as a function. Another thing worth mentioning is we'll add a number of predefined functions, things like that. So for instance, Dataedo now, you can use it in any dialect, right? So for MySQL, it's now, in Postgres is current timestamp, and so on, right? So there are different ways. So we'll be, yeah, that's worth mentioning that there will be some generic functions that will be translated into your native language, and you can also always use the function built in the database, right? So if, for instance, Snowflake supports a lot of different scripting languages. So if you build in your rules there, and you can just call them in SQL.
And we have a few more questions and only 7 minutes left.
Okay.
So up on that. Is there availability to export filter results in a data quality module?
Export data
Filter
quality.
result in data quality module. So export filtered result.
I think the goal there is probably, once it finds outliers and problems, can that be exported to Excel for handling, I think is the question.
Okay, there are two levels of results. Level one is just information that for this column, rule number one returned X amount of rows that do not fit the rule. That's like a basic functionality. And then there's also listing those, I don't know, let's say 13 rows, 13 values. That would be possible a bit later. I mean, it will be limited to, I don't know, say 1,000 rows per rule, because it could, easily go wrong. But you will be able to decide which columns you'd like to extract because, of the sensitivity. You can just export an ID of row, or maybe ID and a value, or maybe ID display name and value. And it will be saved in the repository with a timestamp. And so there'll be like a data curation dashboard where you can see rules and then find the exact rows, and even build an URL which will get you to your CRM or any application to fix the data if it's possible to build an URL. That's also planned, but a little later.
Perfect. And then are you planning to provide a capability of enabling and configuring automated notifications or emails with the idea of alerting people when quality is compromised?
Yeah, also not in the very first release, obviously. But yes, some kind of summary report that can be launched, 8 a.m. every morning, for instance, with the summary of the any breaches of those rules.
Perfect. And then I believe it's the last one. Anomaly detection and text similarity would be helpful too.
Okay. Anomaly, yes. I mean, anomaly detection. This is a bit more advanced. It's not rule based because the system has there. We don't write rules. For instance, that the value has to be between 10 and 20. The system has to detect those trends. So you don't write the rule. You just maybe indicate which columns are tracked. That that's something we will also investigate. However, not again, not probably not this year, right? Early, maybe next year or so. And text similarity, yeah, that's a tricky one. I haven't seen a tool that does it, but if you have any example of tools that do it, I mean, it's a great research material.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. If we don't have any other questions, give just a second to ask a question if you want. Just to kind of reiterate what I said at the first, in case anybody missed that. This will be the last Dataedo Talks for a while. We'll come back, in a couple of months with this when we have things like the data quality out, so we can actually show it and talk about how it works, and give a better overview of that. So that'll be coming. And as I said, the links to the videos are on the website. Feel free to share those with your colleagues and as appropriate. Also, as we move into this Dataedo Basics in a couple of weeks, when you start getting the invitations for that, again, feel free to forward that to other people in your organization that might be it might be useful to them to just understand very basic level about catalogs and glossaries and dictionaries and lineage and all of these basic foundational topics that could be useful, not so much about how we use them, but what they're for and how they add value to understanding of the data systems. So feel free to forward those as you start seeing those invitations. So thank you all for joining us and participating in Dataedo Talks. This has been good. And look forward to seeing you in the future as we move forward.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.